Good evening and salutations, my Days of Our Lives fans. I'm actually happy to be doing this now, to be getting out this recap so early because I know yesterday it was actually pretty late. So, thank you for your patience and thank you for watching. I know it was super late. Going into this episode, I'm not gonna lie, it was there was some stuff that was a little kind of heartbreaking, nearly tear jerking. Um, and I don't know. It was two main stories, and I think it was one like maybe kind of a fluff piece. But let's get into it. Let's start off with I wouldn't sit there and say a fluff piece, but kind of something that's gonna probably be more bigger down the line. Let's start with Allie showing up to Eric and Nicole's place. So she shows up and she's like, "Hey, listen, I need a place to crash. Can you help me out? Blah blah blah." And Eric is like, so how's your mom feel about this? And Allie gets into this whole this whole backstory about how, her mom doesn't trust her and, she's not letting her be a woman, an independent woman and stuff like that. I'm an adult and then she's like, because she is being very controlling and I guess she was living in a different part I guess that she's living separately from her mother or whatever. And her mother pretty much wanted to drag her back over to where she's at because I guess she felt like she was partying too much or whatever. And she's still dealing with the EJ. And by the way, can somebody please tell me who is EJ? Because I don't think that's her husband. So I think Lucas is her husband. I'm not sure. So is that her brother or something? Please tell me who EJ is in the bottom of the comment section. But anyway, she's also, Alice like, listen, this way I can stay here and she can just focus all her energy on EJ instead of trying to control my life. Eric is like, all right, listen, let me talk to Nicole. We'll sit there and talk and then we'll decide if we can stay or not. So, let me turn this down a little bit. Anyway, she goes to the bathroom, and Nicole's like, well, here's the thing. She's not telling us everything. But, she's your family or whatever, and, you love her, I love her, it's cool. So, Allie comes back, and Erica's like, alright, listen, you can stay, but, you're gonna have to sit there and slow down on the partying. Like, well, actually, he was like, you're gonna have to not party. And she was like, sure, fine. And Eric was like, really? Like, that's... You sure? Because, I mean, that's kind of a condition. You said that kind of quick. And even I was just like... I didn't even know her that long. And even I was like, that's kind of a fast answer. And Allie was like, well, you know what? Listen, it's not going to be a problem for me partying. It's not going to be a thing for me anymore because, that she takes down her coat and she's pregnant. So, Eric and Nicole are just like, what? And that's pretty much where their scene ends. I mean, there's a lot of back and forth about how, Eric is like, listen, you need to tell your mom, you didn't sit there and tell her this, you're worrying her, blah, 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 blah. But in the end, they decide to let her stay. And, they're gonna sit there and probably, deal with the whole pregnancy thing. Plus, Eric is like, listen, if she gets invited to the wedding, hopefully they can patch stuff up. Allie and Sammy can patch stuff up anyway when she comes to the wedding. So, let's talk about. Oh, you know what? Since we're on that subject of Allie, let's talk about Kate let's talk about Kate first. So, Kate goes to John's house, and Kate is like, listen, first of all, she just kind of, actually, no, I think she actually knocked this time. Wow. The hell is up with this woman just walking in people's houses, by the way? So anyway, she sees John and she's like, hey, listen, you need to convince Steve to accept the key to the city. John is like, well, listen, I can't sit there and tell him what to do, and if he wants to accept it, that's on him. Some people don't like to be made a big fuss of. And pretty much Kay's like, listen, I sent out the invitation. This is happening. Okay, you need to get Steve and Hope on board. And John's like, well, depends if it comes up in conversation. Like, you dick. It's like, you dick. Okay. And Kay's like, all right, you know what? Make it happen. I'm just frustrated. So she walks out. Marlene walks in, and Kay's like, listen, we can't talk right now because I'm out of energy because I sit there and deal with your husband. Bye. So she leaves, and pretty much Marlene tells John the good news that Claire's staying, and John is over the moon. He's happy to have his granddaughter back, back with them and stuff like that. I'm gonna get more on them later. I know this is kind of discombobulated, but just try to follow me for a minute. So Kate goes back home or whatever, and she talks to Abe or whatever. Basically, Smith is saying, things are in motion, and it's gonna make you look good. So no worries. And then Lucas storms in. He storms in. I don't know. I'm not really a fan of him so far. He just seems like another person that's just kind of whiny a little bit. But anyway, he's like, listen, what have you done? You've been giving my daughter money. We cut her off for a reason because she's been partying nonstop 24/7. And at first, Kate's like, well, how do you know it was me? How do you know it wasn't Marlena? How do you know it wasn't Marlena that gave her money, And Lucas is like, all right, listen, cut the BS. It was you. And then Kate was like, well, she deserves to party a little bit, And so they get into this whole back and forth thing or whatever. And finally Lucas is like, listen, you know what? Let's just track the credit card. Because Lucas has no idea where she's at. Apparently, I guess he went to where she was staying. And by the time he went there, she was gone. So to some extent, I can understand Lucas, his anger and his frustration, because the whole point of them cutting her off is that way she wouldn't be going out and partying. And Kate giving her money is kind of like enabling her habit. So to some extent, I kind of give him a little bit of a slide, especially him getting there because he was all like really pissy and stuff like that. But he kind of did have a reason of why he was so upset, especially if he gets to some place. She's not there, and he's like, I don't know where she's at. You know what? Let me go to Salem, find my grandmother. She has to know something because she didn't just get money on her own. So I guess in that way, I can kind of just cut him some slack. Also, he finds out that she's in Salem because they look up the credit card information to see where her purchases were because Kate decided to give her credit card. Wow, that is the definition of spoiling someone. She didn't just sit there and just cash app her some money. She was like, nah, you know what, just take my credit card. Okay. So yeah, that pretty much ends his scene and her scene. And I'm gonna get to the you know what, let me take another, because this episode, I'm not gonna lie, and it's, if you read the title or whatever, and you watched it, you know that there is some sad parts that's coming into it. And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't think it was gonna be as sad when I tried to look at it from the bigger picture. But hold on. So before we get into the sad part of it, let's talk about Steve and Kayla. So, and this is all kind of funny. Damn, I didn't realize that Kayla was actually on that show for that long. Jesus Christ. And the reason I say that is because Steve meets Kayla at her job, and Steve was like, listen, I apologize for you having to take care of me. And I hope I didn't sit there and say anything inappropriate. Kayla was like, nah, you're cool. You did the same thing for me. And I'm sitting there thinking, I was like, wow, you mean totally responsible, very dead-eyed look, Caitlyn, like, you're a drunk? I wonder what that was like. And then they show a flashback, and this is like Sarah Connor in Terminator 2 hairstyle look. Like, so they show the flashback of Steve, carrying Kayla, back home or whatever. Fireman's carry back onto her bed. And when I looked at her hair, I was like, wow, this is... Damn, girl, wow. I don't know, I was just... there was really no words to actually describe the look of, the hairstyle and the fact that she was just on there for so long. But, yeah, so she was done. She was done, and she was there. She had her hands all over Steve, and she was like, well, I have some ideas or whatever. And Steve was like, yeah, I bet you do. And, Kayla starts kissing on Steve and everything like that. And Steve, being the good man that he is, was like, you know what? You're drunk. I'm not going to sit there and take advantage of the situation. No matter how much I want to, I'm not going to. And he just was like, nah, I'm good. And I know if you think about it now, it plays this whole consent thing or whatever. But, this was way back then. This was before the whole consent. Not that I have a problem with it. I have a problem with preaching this about it. It's like, it should just be obvious. It shouldn't have to be something that should be told to people. But anyway, he was a good guy, and he just was like, nah, I'm good. And by the way, I am totally on board with consent 100%, so don't think that I'm not. I'm not a fan of PSA messages, especially that, because I feel like it shouldn't be something that should be preached to you. You should just know it. Anyway, he was a good guy. He said no, and then they kind of just... Actually, to tell you the truth, they were talking a little bit longer, Kayla and Steve, and then Justin came in, because I guess Kayla called him on the phone, asking about lunch plans or whatever. So as they were talking, Justin walks in, and Justin's like, hey, what's up? And he says it very casually, but you can tell that he was just like, what are you doing talking about fiance? What are you talking about girl for? I felt that personally, but Steve was like, you know what, listen, we're good. I'm gonna head out. Enjoy your talk or whatever. And that's when Justin told Kayla the bad news about the custody hearing. That Rafe lost custody to Dave, and Zoe's gonna be getting custody. And Justin, man, I gotta be honest. As much as I kind of don't really like Justin a little bit, because I feel like he's whiny, when he was telling Rafe about, how he lost custody, I felt bad for Justin, because no one likes to be the bearer of bad news like that. And he was like, listen, I did everything that I could. It just didn't work out. And, yeah. So he told Kayla that, and, Kayla was like, wow. Justin was bummed, because he was like, I felt like I could have done more. I felt like I let him down. And, then they get to the, I guess they get to this, I don't even know what this restaurant or this pub is called, but they get there, and they talk about, shit. Kayla's sister tries to cheer him up by talking about the wedding, and then they set a date, and at first they're like, well, let's do it in July, but then Kayla was like, July, me and Steve got married then, and then they go back and forth, but finally, Kayla was like, fine, we'll do it in July. And then they kiss, and Steve walks in, and it just like punches him right in the chest when he sees that, and I felt for him. But that pretty much ends that scene. Okay, I'm gonna need this for a second. There was one part in there, I'm not gonna lie. When Justin was talking about what was going on between her and Steve, and Kayla was like, well, listen, the thing was, Justin was drunk. I took him back home, and I put him in bed. I put him to bed, and Justin was like, I'm sorry, what? Because when you gotta sit there and think about that whole sentence for a minute, the way she said it, she was like, yeah, he was drunk, I took him back home, and I put him to bed. And I'm not gonna lie, when you say it kind of fast like that, it does kind of take you back for a minute. And so Justin was like, I'm sorry, what did you just say? And after they clear it up, Justin kind of realized that he was, kind of being a jealous ass. But to an extent, when you say it that fast, it even kind of made me be like, I'm sorry, what did you just say? Like, I know it happened, but when you say it out of context like that, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, so I thought that part was kind of funny. So now we're gonna talk about some stuff that's not kind of funny. And this one, Rafe gets the bad news that he lost custody to little Dave. And they pretty much Justin was like, listen, his dad is still alive, and his dad wanted Zoe to get custody. And the court pretty much has to honor that. And at first, here's the thing. At first, Dave was upset because he's like, I know, he's only really pretty much known me his entire life. He doesn't know you guys. You guys are total strangers to him. And at first, I was like, well, here's the thing about Zoe. She's not like the devil or anything. She's not Nell from General Hospital, which I'm not gonna lie, they kind of portray Nell as so evil and everything like that, that it's like she's the last person you want to have any sort of custody with. But with Zoe, she doesn't seem that terrible. She really doesn't seem terrible at all. I mean, she seems like the type of woman that does what she has to. She crosses lines when she has to, and granted, she's not exactly the best character as far as like being upstanding, but she's not like this terrible human being that Hope tries to make her out to be. I mean, yeah, her dad is terrible, but that doesn't mean that she's terrible. And so I'm just like, yo, why don't you just find somebody else and have another child of your own? I get that, your child doesn't, you can love someone no matter if they're blood or not, but at the same time, that is their blood relatives, and they're not evil people, so why, anyway, they go and pick up little David, and Zoe's there. She's like, well, there's an officer outside, just to make sure everything goes through. And at first I was like, really? Like, is that really necessary? You honestly think it's gonna come to that? I felt like that was just a little bit extreme. So Rafe goes out. Well, Jesus Christ. Rafe comes with Dave or whatever, and he talks to him for a little bit, and then he hugs Dave. And at that point, I'm not gonna lie, that shit kind of got to me. Like, that was actually pretty sad. That was actually pretty heartbreaking. Like, that almost made me tear up a little bit. That's how sad that scene was. Because up until a certain point, I was just like, I get that you're upset, but like, you're not like, I'm not saying you're not his father, but like, he does have family also, and his dad does want Zoe to have him, like, I don't know, I was just like, I didn't feel like it was that, I don't know how to describe it, but anyway, when he hugged little Dave or whatever, and he started to tear up, Hope was like, listen, let me just, because Hope didn't want Dave to sit there and look at that and whatever, so Hope was like, listen, let me just go get you some snacks or whatever. And Rafe is sitting there packing away Dave's stuff, and Zoe is just like, I mean, she's sad because it's not like something that she really wanted. This isn't one of those situations where it's like, I won and I'm just happy about it. It's like, yeah, you won, but like, you're happy about the outcome, but you're not happy at, you're not you're not taking joy at his expense, and that was, is what I saw during that scene. Hell, Zoe even actually tried to hug Rafe a little bit because she felt heartbroken about it. And she was like, listen, I'm only a couple hours away. You can come and see little Dave anytime you want. We're not like, you're not gonna never see him again. And, she left, Hope came and pretty much just kind of picked up the damn pieces at that point because Rafe was distraught, I mean, I've never been a parent. I've never actually taken care of a child. So I can't sit there, and when I was sitting there like being like, Dave, Rafe, I was like, you need to chill. I was just like, you know what? In a lot of ways, it's really kind of not my place to really kind of like judge him too hard on his sadness of losing custody. Because even though it's not his child, when you bond with somebody like that, child or not, you're always going to sit there and look at them like they're your child. So that's why I was just, even when I was trying to discover, I was like, I can't really, like, not bash him, but I can't be like chill at the same time. I guess that makes sense. And yeah, that was pretty much about it. Look at that, 20-something minutes. Jesus Christ, these things. It's not even so much that it takes long, and sometimes I try to like edit it down or try to talk about it to like 15 minutes. But you just can't sometimes with scenes like that. And yeah. This show is actually pretty interesting. I gotta sit there and say. And again, I do like the balance of this show of Days over General Hospital. Because you take example of the custody hearing between Nell and Michael with Wiley, and Zoe and Rafe with Dave, and Days of Our Lives is so much more balanced because it's not like no one's really the bad guy, Zoe did what she had to do because she felt like her life, her child's life was in danger, This wasn't like she was just some evil person or she grew up evil and she's only having a child to, get in good society with other people, She's not doing this out of malice. She's doing it because she genuinely loves little Dave, as opposed to Nell, which is like, she doesn't really seem like she loves Wiley. And so I feel like this custody hearing, this whole situation with Days is handled a lot better than the fucking fiasco that's going on with General Hospital. I love General Hospital. I've been watching that show for a long time, but I gotta sit there and say the way they handled this show and their custody hearing was just a lot. Hell, we didn't actually have to go through this whole trial of back and forth and who's gonna win and blah 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 blah. It's like it just cut straight to the chase. And I gotta sit there and say I gotta give Days points over that, over General Hospital. Anyway, thank you everyone who actually watched my 3-minute rant. And that's gonna do it for this episode. Again, there wasn't really a lot. The meat of the story was pretty much Rafe losing custody and how he was gonna deal with that, and some backstory about Allie staying, Allie and Eric and Nicole. Other than that, I think also Steve wants to come and work with John. They have something called Patch Black. I don't know what that's about. If anyone's interested, please feel free to tell me in the comment section what the whole Patch Black means and like what did it exactly do and what does John actually do. Now that I sit there and think about it, I know Marlena is a psychiatrist, and I know they're not just going to be living off of Marlene's paycheck. So what is it that John actually does for a job? So yeah, that's gonna actually do it for this recap. Be safe as always, and I will catch you in the next recap.